Back and joining me now is Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, who is out with a new book, Turnaround, America's Revival. Senator Lankford, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good to be back again.
It's great to have you. Congratulations on your new book. We are going to talk about it in just a moment. I have to start by talking to you about tariffs. And I want to start with where I left off with Secretary Bessent. The questions about a recession, the concerns by economists that the chances could be increasing for a recession. He said there's no reason to anticipate a recession. Do you agree with him? How do you see it?
Well, I'm not an economist on it, but I would tell you I don't anticipate a recession either. And some of it's history and some of it's current. We're watching already the jobs numbers tick up. We're seeing inflation continue to be able to stay down. That's helpful, getting on top of prices, things like gasoline, things that people use every day. That price continues to stay down. That helps the entire economy. But I can also look at the Trump version 1 and Biden actually and see where did we have the greatest challenge on inflation? Where did we have the greatest challenge of the economy? We've literally seen two different economic plans side by side now. And so there's a lot more trust for President Trump now saying, yeah, there's a challenge in the market. He's pushing the area about trade, wants to bring more manufacturing back to the United States. That's causing this rumble that's happening right now on Wall Street. But we also see where things are going because we've seen this movie before and saw how successful it was.
Well, and as you know, there are concerns about what it means on the world stage for the United States. Here's what the Wall Street Journal editorial board had to say, writing, quote, Mr. Trump's new tariff onslaught is giving China another opening to use its large market to court American allies. Senator, do you believe that these tariffs run the risk of emboldening China?
Everything will embolden China. They're very confident in many ways, except in their economy. When you look at the inside working of their economy, they're very, very dependent on exports. If they don't have large quantities of exports, their economy doesn't work at all. So this is a direct challenge to them to say, we're going to try to push more manufacturing in the United States to bring jobs here. So I think that's why China has reacted so fast. I've already seen the administration reach out to countries like Vietnam, Bangladesh, other nations, and to say, let's open up dialogue to be able to talk. President's even made a statement about that he's talking to Vietnam, wants to get the tariffs down significantly back to where they were with Vietnam. That's a huge challenge to China then at that point. But right now, China is trying to be able to send products to Vietnam, so they'd send them from here to avoid the tariffs. We do have to fix that.
Well, and you have expressed concerns about tariffs actually in the past. I want to play a little bit of what you said back in 2019, get your reaction on the other side.
The American workers and the American companies pay the brunt of all those. So far, Americans have paid $12 billion in tariffs. It's not punishing the Chinese, it's punishing us.
Senator, how long are you willing to give President Trump to see if these tariffs, in fact, are working and making the economy
better?
So
if it's reshifting the economy back to getting more manufacturing back to the United States, that's good for us long term. There's no question short term tariffs do cause an increase in price. As Secretary Bessent just said, it's a one-time increase that happens. I want to get that down. When we see some of the rates in some of the other countries that are very, very high, we've got to be able to work those down because our economy is very intertwined globally on this, and we want to make sure it's all fair and it works. And one of the clearest examples is Israel has a 17% rate. Lebanon, Turkey, Yemen, Saudi Arabia have a 10% rate. We got to be able to figure out why that's so and to be able to bring it down.
You know, even some of your Senate colleagues have expressed concern and say, look, if it goes past 90 days, that's going to be a problem. Senator Ted Cruz, for example. Is that the time frame that you're looking at, 90 days?
I actually don't have a calendar date on it. I think there's more than anything else, this needs to be a short-term issue while the negotiations are actually happening. I think once the president starts announcing some negotiations in some different countries, we'll start to see the market calm and we'll start to see the rates come down pretty quickly.
Senators Grassley and Cantwell, as you know, have proposed a bipartisan bill. It would basically allow Congress to play a larger role in tariff policy. Senator, will you support this legislation?
So I've not gone through that one completely. Let me tell you why on this. Congress already has a role in most tariffs. Many tariffs come in for a couple of months. The president can impose it. Then it has to be able to come to Congress. The president's using a different authority this time that doesn't have that same trigger that comes to Congress. And I think what Chuck Grassley is saying is, hey, Congress has a role. Quite frankly, constitutionally, Congress has a key role in any kind of tax policy, tariffs, any kind of revenue issues. So it is right for the legislative branch to engage and say, hey, we have a role in all revenue issues and always have for that long term. So we're going to have the courts step in on this. Congress will step in on this. But obviously, the president's also trying to fix a major issue that's been in the country for a very long time, and that's manufacturing leaving the country.
Okay, I do want to talk about your book. It's called Turnaround America's Revival. One of the things that strikes me in reading this is your optimism, Senator. You have this rallying cry, basically, for people to get engaged, for people to get involved. You talk about the fact that right now America is drifting instead of intentionally sailing. What do you say to those people who have just given up on American politics?
Yeah, re-engage locally. America's not about our politics, it's about our people. It's about each other. It's about our families. And the book itself is a focus on faith and politics. And some people say you can't do both. That I was like, that's not true. Our faith drives everything that we do. Our faith drives how we affect our families, affect our neighbors. But we sometimes disengage our faith from our politics. And we suddenly say, well, I'm going to live my faith consistently with my family, with my politics. I'm going to scream and yell and be angry and think, okay, let's engage both of those. Now, the core values of who we are to be able to live those principles. We are a nation, ultimately, that is about what's happening locally, and what happens locally affects the nation. As I say in the book, Washington doesn't change the country changes Washington. And so what changes the country? It's us.
Well, you also write about the fact that you were one of the people spearheading this effort to get this bipartisan border bill
I do talk about
passed. It was opposed by some Democrats. It was opposed by some folks in your own party. And a theme in your book overall is doing something is so much better than doing nothing. As you stand back, do you believe that your party is following that principle right now, Senator?
We are. We're trying to chip away on some areas. For instance, on the tax policy right now, on what's happening in the economy. We're trying to be able to chip away on those things little by little on it. Quite frankly, we sit back at times and say, it's such a mess, I'll do nothing. That's the worst possible thing. I actually give an illustration about a tornado in Oklahoma that happens when you actually come behind a tornado and you stand there, you think, where do you start? Well, you start where you're standing. You start right there. Wherever you are, that's where you start, because literally everything needs to be cleaned up. And if you look around your communities and families and everything else that we see in just the anger rising in the country, it's like we can either yell at the anger, or we can say, let's do something. Start right where you are and start making an impact. And if each of us does that, look what happens in the country.
Well, talking about doing something, one of the things that you're trying to do right now, Republicans are trying to do, is to pass this budget bill.
We are.
Again, as I was talking about with Secretary Bassett, would extend the 2017 Trump-era tax cuts. The chairman of the House Budget Committee, Republican Congressman Jody Arrington, had this to say about the bill. Quote, "It's unserious and disappointing, creating $5.8 trillion in new costs and a mere $4 billion in enforceable cuts." Do you think that President Trump's budget bill, his agenda, is in real trouble?
It's not. It's not. Let me say the difference here. People are going to look at the Senate budget and say, you're not reducing enough spending on this. We got to reduce a lot more spending. And we're all nodding our heads going, yes, we do have to reduce a lot. But a budget bill, as it comes out, is this wide framework to say, let's get started. There's no detail in it. And everybody says, where's all the detail? There is no detail in a budget. It's just a framework. The next stage is when we go on to detail. So this bill simply allows us in the process to go to the next bill. Most Americans don't track the process. They want to know what the product is at the end. That's coming in the next several months as we work through in public. What's the product that's actually going to come out of this?
And just yes or no, you agree with the Secretary, you can get this done before the August recess?
Oh, absolutely. We can get it done before August. Absolutely we can.
Okay. The book is Turnaround America's Revival. Thank you, Senator, for being here.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.